What a wonderful feeling to be coming back on campus, getting back to the routines of so much. Folks, come on in, rolling in. Thank you, NT. Those are just filler words. We're just doing filler words until folks are finding their seats. Aloha ohana, welcome home. Happy New Year. Lono ki makahiki ho'oli makahiki ho to each and every one of us. What a beautiful day it is to have our convocation. Folks, ohana, we are celebrating 50 years. 50 years of an institution here on the west side of the island that this community have been longing for since 1970s and so much more. What a opportunity to welcome in the new year to each and every one of us. In true UH West Oahu fashion, we will open up with our beloved Melehono Uli Uli and I welcome all of you to join us with our opening of Melehono Uli. So an open invitation to many folks to come join us in the front and also stand wherever you are. So folks, come to the front, join us as we do Melehono Uli Uli to ground us in this place of Hono Uli Uli where our campus resides.
Eo palehua kuahivila. Eo palehua kuahivila. E kuahivino ikalani. O kapole kapula. Kapu ino ikaaina. O ka papa apuhi ka lokola, ka loko ino i kai. O no uli uli la, he aina aloha o ewa. Aloha mai e na puala, na pua he o ka aina. Aloha mai e na puala, na pua he o ka aina. Aloha.
Kim? Aloha mai kākoa pau e ku'umāhua. Welcome to the spring semester of 2026. My name is Manu Aluli Meyer, and I am the Konahiki of Kulana o Kapolei out of the Chancellor's Office. Aloha mai. My job today is to do a couple of things. Number one is to recognize and thank again our outgoing Chancellor, Chancellor Maynette Benham, for her 9 years of service. Really, mahalo nui, Maynette. Institutional memory is a fickle thing. But for Ike Kupuna, we always recognize those who have come before us. And so mahalo nui, Maynette, for your Ike and your consistency during very dark times here in the world. Do you feel it? Everyone take a breath. Exhale slowly. We are at the tail of the snake. It's the year of the snake, and it's just ending. And what that means is we're shedding. We're shedding, and preparing for the year of the horse coming in a few weeks. So the world is in an epic, mythic place, everybody. Completely epic, completely mythic. Or it's not. You decide. Because free will is the energetic field and the difference between AI and humanity. Consciousness is our difference, and let us begin to become more embodied in our principles. And this is why I want to thank Layla. Where are you, Layla? Mahia Oi. Layla, thank you, Layla. Because the reminder to welcome our next leader is a very important idea. Thank you, Layla. So, Chancellor, we have a new Chancellor, everybody. And we're in that kai ahi ahi. I like to think of it. You know, the kai ahi ahi, there's a kaha kai ahi ahi, the kipoe kai uli uli. This is the striations of the ocean. And when you're in the kai ahi ahi, as a lifeguard, you know, you got a vehicle, you got to open your eyes. You're like, brah, get out. Because that's you're not supposed to be there. Because you either go out to surf or you come in because you're bored, you're not ready. And I believe we have in Alakai and you, Chancellor, that will take us out. Because the energetic field that's moving in the world, as an ex-professor, I know and feel that the world is changing. And the world must change. That's the good news. And we're changing to be more experiential. Show your knowledge of surfing on the back of a wave. Meaning, don't just say you know something. Show us your knowledge. And that is where we're leading in the planet. So I want our new Chancellor, Chancellor Carlos Penalosa, to please stand as we welcome him. E olu olumai, those with lays, please come forward. Thanks, you guys. Mahalo nui for coming and helping us shed some things on the tail of the snake. And I also would like to recognize his wife, Fiorella. Are you here? Mahia Oi, is Fiorella here? Where are you, Fiorella? Please stand. Wait. Can you give us your wife? Yes. This is what we do in Hawaii. This is not a conflict of interest. This is a statement of relationality. This is the integrity that we are positing on the planet. Thank you, Fiorella, for your work and your leadership here. And I want to tell you about this next little thing, Carlos. This is a kihei that was designed by Lilinoy Andrews, and we're giving it out to the faculty that has been here for 10 years. So, because the chancellor's lifespan, you know, it just condenses, we're gonna give it to you after 1 year. You're not getting it today. It's the ekomomai. So I really wanna thank this gentleman for stepping forward, really almost unannounced, you know, so we gotta grok it, everybody. But here is our opportunity to evolve right now. So in this challenge, and I send it to you, Fiorella, also with your 4 boys, your 4 children, is that as you take on the helm of both LCC and UH West Oahu for an interim position of 2 years, may your health be sustained, may your humor deepen, and may we see your humanity in every living decision that you do.
Who can follow that after Auntie Manu? A lot of things that she has said there. So folks, welcome home as we start spring 2026 with all of us together in our university here. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the front for our Ho'oya Aina from our Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, John Ayabe.
I get to follow that. On behalf of the University of Hawaii West Oahu, it is with profound reflection that we offer up this ho'oia aina, this land acknowledgement, acknowledging Hawaii as an indigenous space whose original people are today identified as Native Hawaiians. The University of Hawaii West Oahu aligns with the University of Hawaii's commitment to foster the well-being of all our students within an indigenous lens through academic and social processes throughout a 10-campus system-wide transformation we call Hawaii Papaoke'au. With much aloha, I, John Ayabe, Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at UH West Oahu, offer up this land acknowledgement to welcome all gathered in this ahupua'a we call Honouliuli in the moku of Ewa within the mokupuni of Oahu. This is Hawaii nei. Ano ai ke aloha.
Mahalo nui for our ho'oia aina. At this time, now we get to hear from our newly minted interim chancellor, Carlos Peñalosa, for his welcome.
Aloha. Okay, so this is very unusual for me. I typically don't stand behind podiums. I just walk around, but I didn't prep anyone to give me a microphone that I could use and just randomly, can I? Here's my faculty traits and personality coming out here. I like to engage with everyone. I want to start by sharing quite a bit today. And there will be a talk story portion at the tail end of today's convocation. But there's so much to share that I'm gonna have to speed through it. That way we could get to our talk story and really engage in more banter because that's the way that I operate. I don't know how to best work unless I'm getting feedback, unless I know what the feelings are. And so today, there'll be an opportunity to even engage with me and help me collect some information and feedback so that I can best be responsive. You could never prepare enough for what's coming ahead. And the best way to do it is to do it as a collective. But I wanted to start by introducing myself, reintroducing myself a little bit more because some of you may not have been at some of the open forums or some of the smaller meetings. I'm Carlos Peñalosa, and I will tell you that 2026 started with a very interesting wave for some of us. You may know that I'm Venezuelan. In the beginning of this year has been already a pretty significant roller coaster for my ohana. And I will just tell you all that my family is okay. But that's not to say that we weren't triggered this very early January of 2026. That said, you're familiar with my wife. I keep getting a message about the sentiments about me coming in and I'm not wanting to impact my wife's presence here at UH West Oahu. We are happily married. We have 4 beautiful children. All of this is part of us celebrating our ohana. We have 4 beautiful children that keep us very busy. They all go to public school. And they all have the aspiration of following through and coming to Leeward and UH West Oahu, whether they know it or not. We have an extended family. Some of you may know that we traveled halfway through this world bringing 2 basset hounds and 2 cockatoos with us in addition to our 4 keiki. And they make for a very loud family. We're pet lovers, and at some point I'd love to show you pictures of our entire family, but we don't have that much time today. So when we get to meet more in a personal way. I'm a biologist. I trained to be a biologist. I did biomedical research for years. I loved what I was doing. Now here's where I tell you my story. When I moved from Venezuela to New York, I came because of higher education and running away from something that was happening in Venezuela. At that time, I applied to every university that you would learn of if you are an international student, only Ivy Leagues. And so I applied to many, but there was a very local college near where I was living in Queens, New York that I wanted to go to, Queens College. I applied to that and everywhere else. I got everywhere else admitted into. I got admitted into everywhere else except Queens College. And so I went to Queens College and I asked, what the heck? I have all of these other admissions letters, including Brooklyn College and Hunter and other, but not Queens College. And they couldn't answer me. But then they told me that I had missed some deadlines. I could take my Brooklyn College acceptance letter to Queensboro and they'll accept me on the in the spot. Queensboro is a community college. I didn't know what a community college was. I go to Queensboro, they admitted me on the spot. They did a couple of assessments of me and they registered me on the spot. It was very welcoming. I was embraced. It was an excellent experience. Queens College told me take 25 credits and then apply again to Queens College. And I did not get accepted a second time. I was an honor student, excellent grades. My friends whose grades weren't nearly as good as mine got into Queens College, but I didn't. And so my advisor told me, finish your associate's degree and apply again, which I did. And guess who didn't get accepted for a third time to Queens College, right? But I was already doing research at Queens College. I was a community college student, but I was doing biomedical research at Queens College because they had the labs. And so I had my hands in a lot of people, and eventually the college did admit me, and I had a full ride. It was an excellent experience, but I bring that up just to say, what the heck, right? And we serve a community that very often wonder, what the heck? Where are we serving our community, and how are we helping our students, our ohana, embrace higher education, where we are really good at red tape. We are excellent at compliance. Most of us probably still grade with red pens, right? And so that's what we're good at. But we have to look at that student experience and make it manageable. So I began teaching once I earned my degrees and I started doing my research. And when I entered my first real lecture, I had about 200 students in a general biology class. 200 students. I think that that's unforgivable. But I had that many students. When I went to the second semester of general biology, I only had 60. From near 200 to 60 students, that many fell through the cracks. And what I found, the majority of the students that were falling through the cracks looked like me, right? And so I decided to work with institutional research, do a little bit of research, and started getting grants like many of us have been successful at getting to supporting our students. The very grants that today are under attack. But my mission has been to support our students in making that pathway. That got me into administration very serendipitously. I don't think that there is a college degree that's chancellorship, right? But serendipitously, my experience got me to where I am today. And this exploration is but an opportunity, in my opinion, to help continue address that. Because whether we like to hear it or not, our community colleges and the four-year colleges are fragmented, and the student experience is not seamless. We actually provide the stop-out opportunities for our students, which will include my 4 children. And so for that reason, I feel that I fit into this, and when President Hensel shared the opportunity with me, I felt empowered to help move forward. But it's not without its anxiety, its doubt, and I feel what many of you probably are feeling today. I'm hoping that by the end of today's talk story, we could embrace more the opportunity and not worry as much about the things that will likely not happen. And so, but with that, customary of myself, at Convocation, I provide updates that go beyond just who I am. And so I'll have a couple of brief updates. Others here will have brief updates as well. And then we'll get into our talk story. But very briefly, I am learning so much about UH West Oahu. I'm meeting with a lot of people, and like I tell my people at Leeward Community College, we cannot be a well-kept secret. And so everything that we do well, I need to know so that I could be that spokesperson that makes sure that everyone knows of all of the amazing things that we do. And what better way to engage in than to celebrate the fact that we are celebrating 50 years of a legacy that's been created. 50 years is something that is just not worth putting it second to the fact that we're having an exploration between Leeward and West Oahu. And so we will embrace the 50th anniversary, celebrate it, and make sure that our community knows all of the amazing things that we've accomplished here at UH West Oahu in this amazing period of time. So I have to start with a little bit of funny in the midst of everything that's so frustrating that we're living. I live it too. I get a lot of complaints, by the way. So just when we thought that Lamaku was a difficult integration, we landed all of this, right? And so how many of you are stoked about what's going on with Banner right now? No? Gosh. Well, I'll tell you, I'm stoked about the possibilities. I'm not stoked about right now. We are bringing in a lot of resources that, quite frankly, and you'll hear from Leeward Community College too, I have been a huge proponent of most, if not all, of these tools. It's just the bottleneck effect of bringing them all together that makes it really challenging. And today, our students are frustrated and we are frustrated. I want to give a lot of credit to the frontline staff, our registrars, our financial aid folks, our advisors that are dealing with a lot. You don't know until you're in this space how difficult it has been. And I will tell you that at every convocation, I share a lot about enrollment, and I can't even get my own data. And so I think that there are challenges. We will overcome this. We will absolutely overcome this. And all of these tools will make us all the more efficient and effective to supporting our students. But we are in this awkward time. Next, this last year, starting January of 2025, good God, it's been a roller coaster. Especially for those of us that have been pushing and supporting our underserved students, our Native Hawaiian students. For any minority serving institution, we have had an interesting roller coaster with significant policy changes that have impacted our ability to secure funds to support our programs. And so all of this roller coaster ride has been hot and cold. Grants terminated, grants reinstituted. DEI is illegal. We're gonna allow some of it. Native Hawaiians are a politically protected population, and that's what we're going to hang our hats on. And then in December, the Department of Justice interpreted that not to be the case. And so, oh, by the way, I'm huge with AI. A lot of these images I don't create myself. I meant to say that before, and there may be a typo here and there that I just can't fix because AI generated it, but they're pretty. This December, we learned that the Department of Education too is agreeing with the Department of Justice's interpretation of all of these programs being illegal. And that includes our Alaska Native Hawaiian, Title IIIs, and the Native Hawaiian Career and Technical Education programs, among others that impact not just higher education, but also impact a whole bunch of nonprofits and other organizations in our state. We are in a very interesting time when we're going to need to be very resourceful at managing to sustain the efforts that we have to supporting our students in our community. And so I bring that up because this may be news to many. It's not news to some of us. But I wanted to share that because the University of Hawaii does rely a lot on some of these extramural funds. And we are now having to address how we're going to work beyond, say, September 30th. Which is where hopefully we'll get that far. And then this, right? So 2025 was a year where we got a lot of different news, and in 2025, President Hensel announced my appointment as dual chancellor for Leeward and UH West Oahu for this exploration. And I will say that in a vacuum, everything can sound really good, but then the realities and the emotions all come together, and I can't ignore them. It's a challenge, however we want to place it. but I do want to share that there are good reasons to explore. There are incredibly valuable reasons to collaborate. And if we centered at our community and our students as the beneficiaries, we should be able to do a lot together without necessarily destabilizing anything. Our goal is not to take away or destabilize. Our goal is to move forward. And so with that, I do try to do a little bit of interaction. So if you could just help me out a little bit by, in a word or two, describe your current feelings regarding this transition period. Now, I'll tell you, Leeward was very honest in this activity. And I expect you to be honest because it's gonna be a litmus test time and over again when I ask for feedback, and hopefully we're able to see some improvements in the way that we're feeling about the times, in the way that we're feeling about all of the changes that are coming about. Yes. Well, I'm coming to realize that sometimes unless you're on Wi-Fi, signal here could be really difficult, and so I'll let this ride for a little bit. I didn't know you could do those emojis. I think that the opportunities ahead are really important, but this is the beginning. This is simply the beginning, and we'll work collectively to help us out here. I will tell you that I will leave some of these polls open, and I am collecting this, and then I'm going to ask my friend AI to help analyze some of it so that I can be a little bit more responsive and more effective at trying to convey areas where we're confused and areas where we could spend a little bit more time. But because time is limited, I'm going to skip to the next slide. All right. So I did capture, it was very interesting. I don't know if any of you used the Arapo websites to look at our enrollment. I look at it all the time, right? And it was down since the shutdown of Banner. And it only came up for a couple of minutes on Monday, and I happened to look in, right? And at that time, enrollment looked okay. It looked good. It looked better than prior years. But I wanted to share some trends, and I shared the same thing with Leeward. And the trends are really important to look at. Overall, I don't like to look at the moment in time, like this year compared to last year, because we could have had a really good last year, and then we'll look not as great this year. But enrollment is one of those dynamics where we want to focus on. And for UH West Oahu, for the spring semester, we're seeing an uptick, but again, this is the same time last year, and oftentimes at the start of the semester, we have a little bit of attrition. But fall enrollment did look really good for us last year, and that's a testament to all of the work that everyone's doing in enrollment management. Wanted to celebrate that a little bit. But enrollment is one of those areas where we get hit at by the legislature, where we get hit at by UH leadership as one of the metrics that we have to look forward to and look at as we request additional resources. And we know that UH West Oahu needs additional resources. So I bring that up. I will always bring up this information at convocations because I think it's critical. And with that, I will pause this portion of my presentation with the later on beginning of our talk story, where I share a little bit more a framework of how I think that we could move forward with the Leeward and UH West Oahu exploration. But at this time, I'll give it up to the next, and I don't remember who the next. I'm sorry.
Mahalo nui, Chancellor, and for setting the tone with us with the use of AI as part of our presentation. So thank you for that. And the acknowledgement of the current realities, the challenges that we're facing, but yet at the same time, the opportunities that's presented before each and every one of us. What a great opportunity it is for helping us to re-envision, and Auntie Manu for helping us to set the tone of how do we move forward together. Okay, so I have the honor and privilege of actually welcoming home our new hires and acknowledging folks who have transferred or received promotions to new positions of service within the university. So as I call your names up, please come to the front. I'm going to ask for our vice chancellors to assist with the laying of all of our new employees, our transfers, our promotions to the front. And as I call each name, please hold your applause till all names are read. Our new hires this semester: Jalen Choi, Circulation Supervisor; Carissa Fabia, Human Resources Specialist; Morgan Ka'aha'aina, Processing Archivist; Marinella Meguro, Department of Justice and SCOP Grant Fiscal Administrator; Miley Morel, Special Projects and Operations Archivist; Victor Raskoviski, I apologize, Registered Architect; Rhiannon Schultes, Academic Support Specialist; Suzanne Stalter, Cashier. And for our transfers, we want to welcome to the front who received promotions as well: Edward Kianui, Assistant Professor in Business; Wela Wahilani, Director of Early College Program. Ohana, let's give each and every one a wonderful welcome and congratulations. And please stand and still take pictures. We need to make sure we capture these picture moments. Smile for the next 10 seconds. Smile, keep on smiling, folks. The work of Terry and Brian. Let's give them a round of applause for Terry and Brian. Again, congratulations and welcome to our new hires, and congratulations those with our promotions. At this time, we're going to get quickly started with our recap. So as Chancellor had mentioned, as a cue to our vice chancellors, let's keep it brief. So Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, Dr. Barkov.
Aloha mai kako. Mahalo, Manu, that you talked about paddling out. And tomorrow morning, 6:30, Chance Reef, wax your board. We can paddle out together. I love it so much, in all seriousness. If you want to, anyone, please join. But I always thought about the analogy of the waves and life and joy and moving forward together, being wiped out, having duck dive against it, And when you get older, just a wipeout can, sets you out for several days. But anyway, so mahalo for sharing that, because it kind of got me really excited in how we can all move together. And sometimes it helps to have a ki'i, to have something that you can fetch for your energy. So mahalo for doing that. Very brief, we really do it very brief. And we were supposed to bring one highlight, and there were so many highlights within academic affairs. And so one of the efforts is, and we're going to start that next Monday, there were so many individual and small teams highlights and accomplishments. And we want to capture that a little bit more in How's It. So mahalo for everyone who already agreed. We're going to do interviews and give some information on that. But in terms of academic programming, I chose that because that is almost like tenure. When you start, it's almost the same time frame. When you go from the provisional to established, and that is a milestone. So the creative media program achieved that this fall and got from the Board of Regents the approval to be now an established program. And I thought that's really worthwhile. So mahalo to the whole team. This is really amazing, and we were very excited. And then we were asked to have two things that we look forward to it. And some I will discuss if you do come back with the food later for our academic affairs session in a little bit more detail. But just in general, so we have something, we're really looking into academic programming. While we do that at all times, there are two really more distinct efforts that we are on right now. And one is looking into online-only degrees. We know that a lot of our students kind of like get through it by themselves somehow. You know, they shopping around for certain classes, but kind of like make it easier for them because we have students who really need that. At the same time, establishing very clearly what are our in-person kind of like opportunities. So really coming up very intentionally, and some of the data that we have from the gap analysis that from the system was provided, how can we address that? We want to take care of our community in terms of what the need is and what the interest is from our students. So that is one group, and we're working on, and we have good discussions already, and we just this morning in our executive meeting talked about that. That's one of the priorities. The other one is there's a new thing that is like called a 90-credit degree, and it's not that new, but we're looking into that as well. Is that a possibility or not? I'm on one of the groups with the system, with VP, Albert, and Alan, and others. And that could be especially interesting with our collaboration with LCC. You know, so there could be possibly that they come here and they do this 15 to finish. Do you remember that when we had that? So you take that 1 year, then here, and then you pow, and you go out. And so we need to look into that, and that might be a great opportunity as well. And the other, so that's kind of like within this, and the other one is capacity building. And there I take Carlos by his words, as well as Wendy Hansel, our president, who said, like, we need to really resource West Oahu appropriately. And that not necessarily just means adding on, but it could be also strategically realign or kind of like changing certain things, how we work together better. But a big part for me is looking into us in academic affairs, how we can achieve that. And a lot of you know that I, for a longer time now, talked about a certain setup, a certain organizational structure. And so we're exploring that more, how that can be resourced. So I'm very excited about that. And I worked with your DCs on that. And that goes up to like, what kind of instructional needs do we have? What kind of staffing needs do we have? So that we can really achieve what we want to achieve. You know, we can't just ask for more and more from people, and you said that so nicely also with the banner situation shows it right now, that no one can sustain that. You know, we need to take care of each other. And so that goes into this capacity building. And that means resources, but not just financial, but also emotional and being together as one Ohana. So that's a quick update from me. Mahalo.
For the short people in us, we have to modify. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Barkov. And so just at a moment, you know, you just had to select just one highlight. So you want to be a privilege at this moment to allow for all of our beloveds in academic affairs to please stand up. Stand up where you are. Don't be shy. All of our academic affairs, Ohana, please stand up. We want to thank you. Thank you for the work and all the great work that you will do this year. At this time, we also want to bring up our Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Dee Uwono, for her brief updates.
Since Dr. Barkov took some of my 5 minutes, I will get straight to the point. But good morning, everyone. Welcome back. And you know, in student affairs, we get very creative. So our prompt was one highlight, but of course, in student affairs, we get super creative, right? So it is enrollment achievements, but that's huge. And why I want to highlight more than one is because every single one of you in the room has contributed to our enrollment achievements. So of course, Chancellor Penaloza had talked about our increase in enrollment for the spring, which is incredible. So applaud to all you guys, because really it takes everyone, it takes a village. And I think this is one of the banner transition perks that we have. And I know a lot of you in the room here and outside have worked tirelessly to get our students registered quickly before the banner transition, and it helped. So as you can see, we have an increase in our registration. The other thing is we had a direct to UH. It's been all over the news. The highlight is that we had the most applications. So please be very nice to our admissions team. We had 900 plus applications that came in. Yeah, and because of banner transition, they had to kind of stop the application process. It might be a little bit more manual for them, so please be very, very gracious to them as they are trying to quickly admit all of those students on top of those who applied on their own. Retention, as we knew from John Stanley's information last semester, thank you so much, is 77.9%, which was an increase of 8% from 2023 to 2024. Again, thank you to everyone. We had Ed Sites, as Chancellor Penaloza had highlighted, and that's up and running, and that's an early alert system for students. So faculty, you have the early alert system. Ealapono, we have now one for students, so we can get that information quickly and tend to them more quickly. So some of you may have had a forwarded email, like, can you please check on this student? And we can see what's going on immediately. Okay, so for our goals, we said 2. It is 2, but I talked to ChatGPT because it is a banner issue, and I was emotionally charged. So I said, ChatGPT, please give me a really nice sentence for our banner transition goals. I'm going to read it because I don't know if I can do any better than this. I might be really upset saying it. So it says, successfully work through the banner transition by mitigating system disruptions, supporting staff, and ensuring continuity of services that contribute to student success at UH West Oahu. Thank you, ChatGPT. I couldn't have it that. My first couple sentences was very mean. So, but we will get through it, and we're going to look at the many opportunities that the new banner will give us. The other thing that we all know is that we're looking at a 3% increase goal for enrollment for fall 2023. We know we had a lot of hiccups along the way. We know that we still need some electronic versions of to help us market. We're going to get there, but it takes a village. And you folks have been tirelessly working on this very manually too, with the amount of tours, the amount of touch points for our potential students, the amount of people going out into our community. And so we actually met that goal last fall. Our new goal is again another 3%. That's 87 students for a total head count of 2,984. And it's very doable. So let me read off what that looks like. So for example, ACM, 10 students. Education, 4 students. Humanities, 4 students. MNHS, 2 students. BUSA, 22 students. PUBA, 7 students. Applied Science, 17 students. Social Sciences, 11 students. Doable, right? Yay! Okay, we're gonna make it. I told Curtis, poor thing, 10%, and he doesn't have any hair. But realistically, it's 3. I could do 10, and I'll let you know what that numbers look like. So doable, right? Plus, we have our special programs, of course, early college, which we're gonna rename it because it's a very much more He Pai Pai Aloha 2, so Wella is working hard on that. We already have data that it works, and we have actual increase in enrollment from the program. Our retention rates have increased as well, and we'll start, showing y'all that data. And as Wella works on it to institutionalize that program, I think it's going to be very, very fruitful for our community. Veterans is another one that's an opportunity, and transfer students. I know we have a lot of transfer groups and communities working with our sister campus at LCC, as well as other community colleges like Wailaola that have actually successfully transferred students over here. So very doable, right? Okay, so thank you, everybody. I'm gonna call back Roel.
Mahalo nui, Vice Chancellor De Uona. Just thank you for stressing the point to us and each and every one of us that enrollment is a kako thing. enrollment is all of us. So thank you for stressing that for each and every one of us. And just like we did for our academic affairs folks, wanted to recognize our student affairs colleagues who are working and doing their best to making this happen. So please stand up so folks can see you. All of our student affairs folks, all of our student affairs folks, I see you folks in the front and I'm looking at them and they're not looking at me. And they're the ones that are clapping. They're the ones that are clapping. Folks, it's important I use this privilege of mine to recognize people. What ways that we can uplift one another in a time that is quite challenging. And so we want to uplift you as we start this year of 2026. At this time, I also want to welcome for their brief remarks from Vice Chancellor for Administrative Affairs, Vice Chancellor Dave McDonald.
I didn't get the memo on brief, so we'll go. Much like the enrollment, the success we have in the legislative process is a team activity and a team sport and a team victory. So last session, we had one of our best legislative outcomes, and I want to briefly share with you what those are. And I also want to start, though, by recognizing many of the people who had lead roles in helping us achieve that success. Wendy Tatsuno, who has been our government relations person here for well over a decade. Hannah Noye, who works very tirelessly with our students in placements and in advocacy roles in the legislature. And then faculty. We had a wonderful, wonderful contribution by faculty. Frank Kudo, Rebecca Romine, Nicole Akana, to name a few. There are a lot of you who contributed, and your success will be reflected in the numbers I give in a moment. But thank you for the faculty. You were indispensable in what we were able to achieve. So what did we achieve? Well, for M&H&S, we received 4 new positions, 2 faculty, a coordinator for our pre-nursing program, which is one of our enrollment growth programs, and an academic advisor. Ulu Ulu, 3 positions. Critical work Ulu Ulu does behind the scenes to make sure our history in motion picture and video is maintained and shared with the next generation. ACM, 2 positions, a facilities manager and a general laborer, kind of groundskeep role. Cybersecurity, 1.5 positions to really support the co-curricular academic work being done in that program. And financial aid, we received another financial aid advisor, greatly needed. In addition to the positions, we received operating funds for Ulu Ulu and cybersecurity to really help those programs become more robust and able to really stretch out what they do. And in CIP, which is the capital improvement program, we received $5 million to really help us maintain and make some innovative and strategic improvements in what we have to offer here. So thank you to all of you. I want to also then segue quickly into what this session is going to be, because we have already started the pre-session conversations. Because it's a supplemental year, it will be a much smaller set of asks and hence a much smaller set of expectations. Supplemental years are not designed by the legislative process to be those big asks. Doesn't mean that we won't be present, we will. It doesn't mean that we won't be active. We will continue to do that because we have to tell our story over multiple years in order to really get success. So a lot of what we do this session is really to set up the next session and to really create a constant and supportive narrative about the university. Now, as we look at what's coming up first and foremost, we have major campus events. Well, I want to start first of all by an ongoing campus event that we started last year, and it was part of today's session that we didn't do a great job advertising, but I want to bring it to your attention because we're going to do it again and again and again. And it's our Basic Needs Center. Many of you brought canned goods or non-perishable items. We're going to do that every time we meet in this session because the needs of our students are incredible. I want to give you some data because I wouldn't be a VCA if I didn't throw some numbers at you. So since October of 23, we've served approximately 4,396 students, some of them multiple times. Those are the number of students who've received food or clothing from our basic needs facility. Think about that, almost 4,400 students. We have had pantry appointments now that we have a temporary but semi-permanent location for students to come get food on times when, our tables downstairs aren't available. We've had 308 students come and use that by appointments. We gave out 11 tons of food last year. 11 tons. For those of you who like pounds, that's 22,000 pounds. For those of you who are kilo-based, that's 10,000 kilos. Any way you measure it, count it, look at it, it's a lot of food, but it's only a fraction of the need that our students and our employees, because our employees are also benefiting from that, have. So anytime you have the opportunity to provide support, we really ask and thank you for that support because it's critical. Now, events that are ongoing. We have, starting next week, the Wall That Heals. It is the first time that the island of Oahu has hosted this traveling memorial that is a replica of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. It's a 3/4 size exhibit. It is large. It'll be on our Great Lawn. Opening ceremony is Wednesday the 14th. Our webpage will shortly have the full schedule so you can see what each day has with it. For the faculty, I ask that you extend grace to our students because they may be a bit late getting to some of the in-person classes because the parking lot is going to be busy. There is an expectation of up to 4,000 to 5,000 visitors per day in conjunction with this very important event. Unfortunately, it happens to be the first week of classes. So you can already see the potential bottlenecks that may be there. So faculty, please, I ask of you, extend some grace and really, help our students kind of navigate through that process. There will also be some folks who may have some emotional reactions to this. It is a very moving structure. It has the actual names of all the individuals who died as a result of the Vietnam War. So there are family members who will be here taking castings or seeing friends. It could be emotional, especially given the fact that almost 15% of our students are either veterans or actively service members now. So it's a large portion of our students who are in fact directly connected to the military. Other activities coming on. This floor that we're using right now will be replaced. We're putting in new carpet. So those of you who have a fondness for this pattern, take pictures today. It will be replaced. It will be replaced in February. It'll have a red tone to it because, again, our colors are red. So we're trying to improve that facet. Other things we have, their Farrington Road widening will extend towards the country club about March, April. That will cause a disruption in the main entry, and so we will actually use the Qualikai entry at that point in time so you're not stuck behind 15, 20-minute delays as they try to flag people through one way or another. That will be open at that point in time. Those of you who, like myself, live across the way, yay! Google Landing. So Google is going to be doing a cable landing site on the corner of our property closest to the country club. It won't affect us. It's not a data center. It is a landing site where they're going to connect all the cables that are being laid under the ocean and then connecting the islands. That will create some disruption. In the long run, it will create a revenue stream for us because we are renting that land to Google and under a 20 plus a 30-year option on top of that. So it'll be a nice revenue stream for that. You won't see a lot of activity initially, but you may see near the end of the calendar year some construction activity going on with that. Road D is going to have some work done to it. Road D runs parallel to Qualikai. We've already been doing some mapping on that. That's going to be a major infrastructure project that will allow the development of all that land along Qualikai. So that'll have underneath that the power, the water, the sewage, so that as they build out, those pieces will already be in place. Road B, the entry plaza. So the entry plaza from the rail station, that is going to be massively renovated and changed and be made much more welcoming, including signage, better ADA access, lighting, security. That's an activity that you'll start to see probably summer, fall. We'll start to see some real activity on that. At some point in time, the library tower, which leaks every time there's a major rain, that's not part of the artistic design. It actually has a leaking problem. That too has to be fixed this year. And finally, during the summer, those of us who are in building A, especially on the academic side, there's been some water problems in that building. We're having some major forensic studies being done on that, which means drilling in walls, really trying to figure out what the source and causes are. So the final thing I want to mention really quickly are other campus events. I talked about the Wall at Heels. Esports is coming to ACM February 13 to 15. The Onizuka Boy Scouts event, which we hosted the last 3 years, is coming back on April 4th, including the helicopters. And then the UH Board of Regents meeting on May 21. Those are all major events that will happen during the spring semester. So appreciate all of your patience in advance. I want to acknowledge my folks who are going to be supporting all of these activities, largely behind the scenes, but critically important. So thank you all to all the folks from the admin team who are actively supporting these activities. And thank to all of you for your participation and support as well.
That was pretty brief, considering the amount of accomplishments Administrative Affairs is doing. Let's give Administrative Affairs and their team a round of applause. If you folks did not have a chance to take notice of the new podium, it's not that stale gray podium that we have. It's now this darker color. This stopper right here, right in front of the mic. So it tells us to not go closer to the mic, but stay at a 3 feet, 3 inches behind it. And if you folks did not have a chance to notice, new screen and a workable AV system. So a round of applause. And especially to our facilities and our grounds crew engineers who are making our campus beautiful. So thank you for all that you do. As we've given the opportunity to acknowledge all of our divisions and the great work that you do, I also want to recognize those in our Chancellor's office. As we've noticed from at the Mahalo Chancellor, not necessarily behind the scenes, but behind the locked doors. So if I could have the Chancellor's team to please stand so we can give you some aloha as well. Let's give them a round of applause for our Chancellor's team, all of the units within the Chancellor's office. Thank you. And hopefully you can work behind an unlocked door or an open door. At this time, we will continue on with our talk story and bring back to the front, Chancellor Carlos Peñalosa for more information.
Well then, I also didn't receive the short presentation message, and so I'm hoping to get through a lot of this in a very short period of time. Thank you to everyone that presented so far. It's a lot of really cool things happening here at West Oahu. We should all be super proud of it. And it really is, we're all contributing to this narrative. Now, my talk story has a little bit of context initially, so I'm gonna fly through it, and then we could open it up. That way we don't start from scratch. But beginning with really trying to bring together two campuses that have been together, but organizationally and in terms of the student experience, we could do so much more to make that transition smoother and supporting each other's enrollment needs as well as our missions. I think that, when you hear from Dave about the opportunities from our budgetary and staffing perspective, we also have to keep in mind that the state is also struggling financially. And so finding these new resources is not going to be magical. Now, I wanted to start with this because I'm often asked, why are we thinking of having this exploration between the two colleges? Like, what the heck's the point? Well, I'll tell you that this is national projected enrollment decline overall. We're on the actual good side of the island, by the way, where we're not going to expect such a decline. We're actually growing on this side of the island, but our numbers are not reflecting that yet, and we really need to turn that ship a little bit. This last fall, UH West Oahu did really well. Leeward didn't do as well. The net effect for both campuses is not great. When the university and the legislature are making decisions, they're seeing us as a whole, not always independently. And so what can we start doing about that? Again, Notebook LM, I apologize if you don't like too much of the AI-generated imagery. But We're challenged with the demographic cliff. We're challenged with those giants out there that are in our backyards. Large online universities that are taking a lot of our students. And quite frankly, I don't believe they're honoring the mission that they need to honor for our community and our students. But they are making things easier, oftentimes even cheaper for our students. And so where do we go? Well, we can't really compete with them. Then we're also managing with resource scarcity. And so here at UH West Oahu, I know, I've had meetings with many of the units already, and I know the needs that we have from staffing and from budgetary resources. It's not gonna magically appear, but I'm here to tell you that I am gonna put that fight out there to get us resources, right staff us, and provide us so that we can deliver in our missions. Like I said before, we really can't compete with the big ones. They invest in a very different way. We're publicly funded. If we did half of what they do to enroll students, our legislature will be breathing down our necks a lot more. They invest a lot more in admissions than they do on academics. And so we have to be very careful to not compete. What we can do is work in a way in being and honoring who we are, why we've been established, our mission, the place that we operate in, and our local workforce needs. And so we can do that much better than anyone that doesn't have a presence here. And so why not invest in that? And that's the opportunity between the two colleges. Individually, we're small. As a collective, we could do so much more. Now, I bring this slide up. This was primarily for my Leeward folks, but I will tell you that one of the challenges that we've had as a system is that we haven't by design worked as a system. And so for the community colleges and for the baccalaureate granting institutions, you have two pathways always. You have the pathway for those of us that want to go into research. So you have to go for a graduate degree. And then you have the applied space where you just want to get to work. Well, if your goal is to transfer from place to place, going on the applied path is gonna be murky. So what do? We hybridize it and sort of fall somewhere in the middle where the applied side may not be as strong and the transfer path is super murky. And so when we think about articulations, we don't have the best articulations. We don't have the best rate of bringing in those credits over. Because by design, they weren't intended to be that way. So there are things that we have to adjust on all sides of the houses to help support our students make that move. Right now, the community college system under academic affairs is looking at fine-tuning the applied versus transfer degrees at the community colleges so that then the transfer process could be much smoother with our four-year partners. So, like I always try to get a little bit of engagement. I'm sorry, this may get a little bit boring for all of you at some point, but which of these external threats worry you the most for our future? I just know that I could get boring if I just keep lecturing. And so if we throw in a little bit of this, it breaks my presentation out a little bit. Okay, so budget cuts and resource scarcity. That's absolutely something that I was expecting a lot out of UH West Oahu, for sure. I will tell you that, I can't predict the future, but I'm really out there telling a good story about everything that I represent and that we represent as a collective. And my commitment is to help address that need for UH West Oahu. I said that from the very beginning, and President Hensel and I have been on the same page. We know where West Oahu is at budgetarily and staffing. Okay. By the way, you could continue contributing to these. If there were one seamless ecosystem, what is one barrier you would love to see disappear for your students? Again, I'm always going to try to center back on our students because that's our mission. Oh, I love it. So as you go through this, as an administrator, you learn a lot of things over time. And I always find that we've established student affairs or student services to support our students. But oftentimes we are the compliance officers, right? And so we have to negotiate, making sure that our students are doing the right thing and not always looking for a path for our students to get to the next step. And so student success is really critical for us to think about. I appreciate all of this, and I'm not intending to analyze all of this. I'm intending right now. I'm intending to capture it and analyze it and create categories for us to have follow-up discussions about each and every one of these. So I appreciate a lot of this. It's important for us to collectively think of these, especially during these exploratory periods. So I want to talk a little bit more about our path forward. We have Leeward and UH West Oahu, and the idea here is to address some of those needs that you shared of just in the slide before by looking at ways in which we continue to be student-centered. I'm not suggesting we aren't. I think as a system, we need to continue to focus on that, eliminating barriers and creating more seamless processes. Shared services and backbone. I will tell you, it is very difficult for me to think that we could write staff by just bringing more people if our enrollment doesn't follow, right? And now we have two colleges that have similar needs. Where can we find synergies? Community as a co-creator. This is where I think that we have our uniqueness. This is where the Southern New Hampshires and the ASUs don't have it on us. We know our people. We know our community. We need to capitalize on that to find that uniqueness in how we deliver. Having those capstones as part of our programs is relevant. Having the experiential opportunities is very relevant. And that's where we become more of that localized entity that is sought. And then, of course, the preservation of identity. We're celebrating 50 years at UH West Oahu. There's a lot of legacy that has been created. We have an incredible alumni base. We have established ourselves in the community. The goal is not to do away with any of that, but to continue to capitalize on that and grow. We have to retain our distinct missions. And I say that too. 4-year colleges and 2-year colleges have very distinct missions, the way that we operate, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't find a space to help support the students in that transition space. So our vision is a lifelong education pipeline for Hawaii. And so where President Hensel and I are coming from is, you hear it all the time, right? Even our local legislators want a stronger presence of the university on this side of the island, right? We want to be able to deliver what's necessary for us, but create an opportunity where students are moving forward. Do you all have any idea, I don't know if I mentioned this already, any idea how many early college students Leeward has right now for this spring? 1,300. 1,300 early college students. Do you know what percentage of those early college students come to Leeward once they graduate from high school? I don't even want to say that. I don't even want to say it, right? And there's even a large percentage that don't intend to come to UH, period, right? What can we do to capitalize on that pipeline? Because guess what? They move on to the community college and then to the baccalaureate granting institutions. There's a stifling effect at every step of the way. What can we do as a collective when our students starting in K-12 have as a light at the end of the tunnel UH West Oahu? Right? And that's not to say that we have to start everyone at Leeward. Not everyone is a community college bound student. But the idea is we want to create a pipeline where students see themselves throughout and not in snippets. Oh, I'm going to just take my general education and go to Oregon. A lot of our students think that way. How can we reinvent and recreate that? And capitalize on that the community colleges have established the workforce development non-credit arm. I don't know if you understand how powerful the non-credit workforce development arm is. That is the short-term micro-credentials and retraining that is necessary for people to shift from job to job and not necessarily invest a full 4 years in retraining. We could capitalize on that, having the relationship with the 4-year universities. And so, this is just draft work, you all. This is not something that is a blueprint that we're going to move forward with. But when I look at visioning how we can operationalize any of this, these are really critical. A one student model makes sense. We could capture from each other and support each other. You know, you may have classes here that may not make because of enrollment. And maybe we could collaborate with Leeward and the student doesn't have to hold back a semester, right? An INA integrated curriculum. I cannot tell you how important that is. I am not local to Hawaii, but I've learned so much. And I value everything that we do. And every time I meet with different divisions and different programs, I learn so much of what we're doing that I didn't know about. And I'll tell you something, if I didn't know about it, how many others know about the great work? Radically accelerated pathways. Academic Affairs is already looking at the potential of a 3-year baccalaureate degree. The opportunity is where community colleges have been pushing credit for prior learning, and so have been the bigwigs. A student could start as a sophomore without ever having stepped into a college, just because of the work experience. You know what's difficult though? When the community college hesitates to award a credit because they don't think that the 4-year campus is going to accept it. How can we work as a collective to make it a stronger pipeline and, quite frankly, build that accelerated pathway where it's not to dilute academics, it's to empower and recognize the work of our communities. So, where do you see the biggest crack in the pipeline for our current students? As you're going through this, I did a little bit of a data pool, even though don't judge me on my data. I am not the best, and Banner is also quite problematic today. But it seems like year over year, the number of credits that students are earning toward their associates are increasing, and the number of credits that actually transfer into the programs is declining. And so on average, a student may have almost a semester worth of credits that's not applying toward their degree. That's, you know, really an important factor to consider. We have lots of opportunities here. Okay, like I said before, student-centered. I'm going to constantly bring student to the forefront of everything we're trying to do. Also, I've said this many a times, I don't have a blueprint. I don't have a guidebook that has a list of things that we need to do. This is a collective approach. I don't want to spike the punch unless it's necessary. And that's why I'm going to always be taking lead from a lot of you. You're subject matter experts in everything. And transparent and consultative, I'll tell you that the Leeward folks, because they know me from a lot longer, I've had a lot of questions and requests for information from the shared governance units. I've been responsive to those, but I will also admit I don't have every answer today. I promise you that I don't have them, but I also promise that I will work to get them. And that's the same promise that I have for our West Oahu folks here. I have 2 years, as Auntie Manu shared. This is a 2-year appointment. I'm already 1 week into it. So we're during this phase, I see it as a phased approach. We have some low-hanging fruit, some foundational work. We gotta talk story. We gotta see where the gains can come from. And then later on, you know, President Hensel has shared, one of the outcomes could be that we could recruit a chancellor for UH West Oahu at some point that has to be announced. The worst thing that could happen is that 2027 ends and then we decide to do that. And now we're behind the ball all over again. And so early in 2027, we will have a good idea of where we're going. But there's going to be some progress and hopefully some good gains that we make along the way. That does not mean that there has to be a structural change. But I call it out as a phased approach for everyone to feel we're not doing downsizing of any staffing. We're not doing anything that actually necessitates not even consultation internally, but consultation with collective bargaining, maybe even a permitted interacting group with the Board of Regents. There's so much procedural. you should not be surprised of any of that. And so, again, a phased approach. And so, this was something that I've been asked for actually on this campus. And so, when we're looking at metrics that would suggest whether any of this is working or not, what comes to mind? Now, I have many ideas, by the way. But what are some things that come to mind for you? What are some things that we should be measuring to evaluate our progress here? I love it. You know, when I'm often asked, what data are we going to report to, say, the Board of Regents as we can report on our exploration? And a lot of the metrics that we report on are always lagging. I mean, we start something and it's like 3-4 years later, we see some outcomes. We got to look at some of the opportunities to look at some low-hanging fruit where we're able to show some of these outcomes. I love it. Thank you for this. Again, I am going to capture all of this, and I promise that we'll have other engaged conversations and the cross-pollination of what both Leeward and US West Oahu have shared. I'm hoping that we will have some joint sessions very soon as well. From a procedural perspective, I'm announcing today that I will be putting together a joint advisory. This is really critical. The composition of this joint advisory is going to be representative, and it's going to be for both, one advisory for both colleges. I do know that there are groups that are already cross-pollinating between campuses. We want to empower a little bit more of this, but also make sure that we keep it transparent and that people are contributing and that we don't feel that there's something behind the scenes that may be happening. And so I will be connecting with the execs of our shared governance units to provide names so that we could build together a group that's going to help us through this process. As has been shared far too many times today, we're all strapped. When is any of this work going to happen? Well, the commitment is that we have to stay afloat first. We are still UH West Oahu, and I will commit to that. This exploratory work is going to happen with additional resources that both President Hensel and I have committed to. Now, the extent to which this comes, we don't know yet, and that's why I'm consulting through this process. What are the best ways of doing it? I will tell you this much. A stipend or overtime or release time, none of those necessarily consider that we're already wearing 3 hats and that we're doing a lot of work. These are critical things to think about, right? Maybe there could be some temporary staffing. We will consult in this process to bring in additional resources because it's just too hard to do it as it is. Finally, I do want to get at that student demographic is changing. Last convocation at Leeward, before this announcement about the partnership came out, I started by sharing our students have changed. The way they learned has changed. What they care about has changed. And I actually used a Notebook LM video that I created about what our students wanted. They don't want to always sit for a 50-minute lecture. They have an attention span of 45 seconds. They don't want to sit for a 15-week, 16-week, if depending on the campus you're asking, semester, right? We have to acknowledge that there are other institutions and other universities that have just completely shifted the way they're doing it to address our students. And guess what? Leeward and West Oahu support a working student, a student with kuleana to family, right? And so acknowledging that allows us to be more effective at addressing the pipeline and valuing those lived experiences. And so I hope that you could join me join us in a strategic pivot. We may not have to merge, but we have to pivot because times are changing. The workforce needs are changing. The speed at which the changes are happening it's changing right now. Okay, now all of these are opportunities and things that we already do. If you look at AI for friction reduction, one of my first slides was all of the tools that will allow us to do that. But we're not quite there yet. And we do this in certain areas. It's just not everywhere. Okay, where can we plug in our resources and become masters at this? I want you all to help contribute to these ideas. This is not the Carlos show. This is the collective show. We should be in a position to support President Hensel in making this side of the island the place to be, in making our university the first place of choice for our community. And that will happen through a lot of these changes. And so again, no blueprint, but a lot of opportunity. And so what happened here? Did I go backwards? This is a different question, right? I'm sorry. Can I just say that early college is such a challenging one? They don't pay full freight. We barely break even. The students we definitely don't break even here. And the students tend to go almost everywhere else. How can we be effective at this? How can we target the existing workforce to be a West Oahu student? I know that it happens in different areas. How can we continue to capitalize on that? And by the way, as you're doing this, because this is my last slide so that we could engage in the talk story, there are a couple of things that I wanted to share. Number one, I've been asked time and over again, how can one person do the job of two? That really should be the job of five. The realities are that it's going to be difficult, and it's going to include having to have additional resources on the table. But one of the critical things that you must understand that I will need to do very early on in this exploration is begin to delegate some of the things that bother us all, right? Like having to approve a Form 136, for example, or having to be the sixth signature on a piece of paper, right? Some of those things, we will begin to look at opportunities for me to delegate some of these processes. I am not gonna be the bottleneck of that. My presence on campuses. I am committed to being on campuses. I think some of you have bumped into me on the train already. I love being on campus. I love walking around. If you want to tour me through a facility, please invite me. I need to know a lot of what's going on. I am committed to all of that. But at some point, like I said, through the resources, we may need to have additional people take on some duties in this process. So it's not that I'm blind or tone deaf to the idea that Mainette worked really hard here at UH West Oahu, and that one person could do the job easily. But I will also say that there are very complex higher ed institutions of much larger size and more locations that are also managed by a leader. And so with that, and thank you for all of this, I want to open it up for questions and banter. I'm sorry, I took too long. I'm an academic. I'm a faculty at heart, but I'm happy to entertain questions or anything of this nature. I promise this is just the first. That's what I was telling folks at Leeward. You know, the announcement went out a while ago, but I really officially started last Friday. And so it's hard for me to engage in a lot of these and provide answers when I haven't been able to really effectively start the work. And so I thank you for the time, but please, I'm really here. If you have questions, please ask, and I'll try my best to answer them, promising that I don't have every answer. Oh boy. Oh boy. Someone, please. Oh. Thank you.
There's this ongoing tension between trying to get people on campus and understanding that regardless of what students say, they want online classes. So what are your thoughts about how we find that balance between that personal in-person touch and the fact that students really do want the convenience of online?
I appreciate that question. You know, I'm dealing with that too at Leeward. We're not immune to it. In fact, we're mirror institutions, by the way. We have similar dynamics. I will tell you that I walk around and talk to students all the time. And I will tell you, for example, our practical students, the ones that are in labs or taking some of our more applied learning classes, will tell me flat out, you can't schedule gen ed classes at the same time that I'm in the lab, right? And then at the same time, if you don't schedule classes on the same day, it's really hard for me to commit to not work 5 days a week when I could take 2 classes on the same day. There are opportunities in how we schedule in building communities for the students, communities of practice, that allow them to then build more of that in-person enrollment. I have that student voice always at the forefront. Now, there are other challenges that exist. If you open up an online section and an in-person section, I almost guarantee to you that all of us would seek convenience over effectiveness, right? And so those are challenges that we have to navigate and work with the students, work with our faculty and division chairs on finding ways in which more classes can be scheduled, but not at the net loss of students. I've had to navigate instances where if we don't offer the online class, they'll just go elsewhere, right? Those are realities. But I will also tell you that those students that had their almost entire high school experience online, we've began graduating those, and the incoming classes are more of that traditional student. If we start to build them, they will come. Additionally, the opportunities are with both campuses. You know we cannibalize each other, right? We offer the same classes on both campuses, and oftentimes neither campuses fill the sections. There are opportunities for us to collaborate in that space as well and create that vibrancy on campus. And then the last one that I will share is we have activities here. You've been graceful enough to invite me to UH West Oahu events where I come and I say my students at Leeward would have absolutely benefited from this. Why not empower that alignment? You create the buzz, you create the masses, and the students will come. I will tell you one thing that we did at Leeward over the last couple of years to address this to some extent. Lee gaming. So the video game spot at Leeward, we invested in a little bit, and now it's busting out the seams. Students are registering for classes more in person because they get to use that as a resource. Students love that experience. And so if we invest and capitalize on some of these, we'll bring some of it back. But it's gonna be an effort that's gonna plug in from multiple places, because when I am asked by a certain group to schedule more in person, it has the risk of it happening at a cost to the college, and maybe where classes need to be canceled more often than not. We need to make very intentional investments. And, you know, having I always say this at Leeward, because my English classes are in one division and my math classes are in a different division. And then when you look at the schedule, they may schedule the pairing of classes at the same time, same day. And it makes it really challenging for the students. So now we force the student to take the online counterpart. Even though they are on campus, they may have to register online. So looking at all of those opportunities to bring that vibrancy back, there's a lot there. But I think that the cross-pollination between both campuses can also assist in that space. I'm trying to capitalize on rail and bringing students here. There may be classes that we don't run at Leeward that they could take here. And I could ride the rail with them.
Chancellor, again, I want to welcome you.
Thank you.
And you shared quite a bit of information with us, breadth, depth. The question I have is this: based upon what you see now, what do you envision is the greatest opportunity that we have in order to be successful?
I think that it's both the greatest opportunity and probably the biggest of the challenges. Our academic offerings and alignments are the biggest opportunity. When you ask a Leeward Community College student for why they may not be coming to UH West Oahu, it may be because there isn't the aligned programming. And so I think that if we align them better, I will tell you that there are opportunities too. We've been having conversations about, and you've probably heard about the UPSIA gap analysis. And when that UPSIA gap analysis showed its face, I was in complete disagreement with its outcomes because it actually made recommendations for things that we already did. But no one knows about it. A student could be sharp enough to complete 4 years of education online between both of our campuses, but we don't have that listed anywhere for parents and students to see, that you could actually do that. And so it's an alignment, and it's telling the story, and it's communicating it in a way in which our communities are going to be able to believe it. I saw outcomes here, for example, retention and transfer of credits and all of that. A lot of that is administrative, behind the scene things that we could address, and we will work on those. But if our community don't know we're here, if our community don't know what we're doing or why we're so special, that's problematic. If we have a story to tell, if we have an alignment to share, that's going to be the best currency for us. Because if we don't ultimately address the collective, look, it could be that Leeward continues to decline in enrollment and West Oahu increases, and that's still a win. But if the net effect is that as a collective, we can't demonstrate an improvement in overall enrollment and usage of our spaces, the threats that we have today will persist later on, and the outcomes could be a lot more dire than an exploration between the two colleges. And so I think that an alignment of programs and telling that story, making it readily available to anyone to know and learn about is great. And right now, people's attention are on this exploration. And so if we do have a low-hanging fruit that we could capitalize on and get into the media about it, that's a win, because I guarantee a couple of students will come. And so that's the opportunity that we have in this short period. Yep.
Hi, thank you. Appreciate your comments today, Carlos. You know, when you mentioned the permitted interaction group earlier, I remember at the September BOR meeting, Regent Abercrombie said that was already going, you know, and he was part of it. He kind of pledged to, you know, work faithfully to support both Leeward and West Oahu. And could you comment on the relationship between the BOR permitted interaction group and what the, you know, very, you know, elaborate and great sounding plan that you mentioned? Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. So the Permitted Interacting Group allows the Board of Regents to look at pretty substantial structural change. The Permitted Interacting Group that the Regents established most recently was focused primarily on separating the UH presidency from the Manoa Chancellorship. Embedded in that, there were opportunities for exploration, but not necessarily a decision to change in a couple of other areas, including the exploration between Leeward and UH West Oahu. Should there be a structural change, because these are reporting lines directly to the UH president, there are unions involved, we have separate faculty classifications, that would create a need for broader consultation and broader decision-making at the regents level. At this point, I have nothing to present to them that would suggest any of that is necessary. It's possible that come 2017, we as a collective feel that something can happen whatever that may be. And then they would engage in that capacity and have to approve some of the changes should there be any. But that's the interaction there between the regents and us. I will also share, President Hensel and I have a very close working relationship. This advisory group will report directly to me. I will perpetually engage with President Hensel. In fact, I have one-on-ones with her pretty frequently. She will be in the know, but we will bring her to certain meetings because of need, because we want her input along the ways. We don't want her to be shocked or surprised about things. And then we will collectively decide what could be a decision that's made locally, what's a decision that needs to be more broadly consulted about. But I will tell you that we already have a lot of cross-pollination between both colleges without the need for major formalities. Yep.
I can just talk. You spoke about the advisory group, and that's actually was my question is, I think some of the challenges that we face at West Oahu is we make big decisions not including community input. Okay, can you guys hear now? Okay, great. I think one of the challenges that we faced working with the community and working with the high schools is they're not being included with their input. And you were talking about the advisory board, and I saw the list was more like LCC, UHWO, student, staff, faculty. So my question is, are you open with including some community stakeholders to that discussion to make sure that they're inclusive rather than us being dominant and being like, this is what we're gonna offer, this is what the change looks like, rather than really listening to what the need really of Hawaii is needed for the students?
Great question. I will tell you that there are already commitments in that space. I don't know how it worked here at UH West Oahu when President Hensel was doing her first year visits of all of the campuses. And I will tell you a very interesting experience when we took her to our Wa'anaimoku Education Center. The community was very present, very vocal about the needs to support our community and in which ways to support our community. That commitment to bringing the community voice is there. It's not necessarily going to be in the joint advisory, but there is the commitment to engage, to hear the needs. Actually, some of you probably know that I am a huge participant of our local neighborhood boards and other community events, and I allow for that to be part of our narrative. The needs from our community best come from our community. And so we will have ears on ground and engage with them to collect some feedback on where we need to go. Yeah.
Can you explain the difference between what President Hensel referred to as the dual mission institution and what you're putting out as a regional comprehensive?
Yeah, so they're not very distinct. A dual mission really refers to retaining, which we will always retain, the community college mission and that of the four-year colleges as distinct missions, but within one umbrella. That's dual mission. The regional comprehensive is one and the same. The one difference that I will tell you is in a regional comprehensive, it can result in it being one institution where both missions are honored, but maybe not articulated in a very separate way. I have committed to retaining a lot of the distinction in the missions that we have for very many credible reasons. And the one that I'm going to put at the forefront right now is, the easiest is Hawaii's Promise. Right now, that's a benefit to just community college students. If we were to move and lose that mission piece of being a community college for Leeward, we would lose out on that benefit for our students and our community, which would be a big mistake. And so whether we end up in a situation where we are a regional comprehensive college, which would be a very distant outcome, by the way, should it move in that direction, it may result in some loss of some benefits. Additionally, it used to be more pronounced, the separation of the missions pre-pandemic, where there was more of an admissions requirement separation between the four-year and the community colleges, but most colleges have expanded on their admissions requirements so that almost every college could be seen as an open enrollment institution. That's what has separated typically the community college mission from the four-year, the open enrollment side. The regional comprehensive encompasses everything from non-credit workforce right through the baccalaureate under one institution, one umbrella. And so those are the differences. We will have more conversations about the different models that have happened in other systems where there may have been mergers or just coalescing, and we will see the pros and cons of all of those. And so this discussion will carry on as we explore more of where we may end up going.
Aloha mai. Brenda Machowski, I'm a humanities faculty, and I appreciate your time here today and your willingness to talk with us. And I appreciate your attempts to sell this plan. My question is about shared governance, of which there has been none to date on this change. And it's really affecting at least faculty morale. That's what I know more about, but I think all staff morale. This is not all of UH West Oahu's faculty and staff. Very unofficially, I see a lot of faculty not here, which is indicative of very low morale. Morale was low before, and it's really in the basement now. So my question is, even in your proposals, which are fine ideas, and I'm not saying they shouldn't happen, but they're still top-down. I have heard nothing about shared governance in your plans. Stan Orr, who spoke earlier, is chair of Faculty Senate. I'm on the Faculty Senate. And so even the proposals that you've put out there, there's still no evidence of shared governance. And so I would like to know what steps you plan to take to actually involve the faculty as an independent entity, not as the people that are appointed by you to serve on particular committees, but dealing with the faculty voice in shared governance.
Sure.
Mahalo.
I appreciate that question. A lot of this is still in the making. I will tell you that what I put forward are a lot of ideas. We can't tackle all of them or most of them at any given time. I will be engaging more and more with groups. I will tell you that I have engaged with division chairs. I have invited myself to some division meetings. I have invited myself at times with the Faculty Senate execs and Faculty Senate meetings. I will engage in more of these discussions. None of these are decisions or a path that is decided upon. All of this is going to be through an engaged process. I will also say that I can't be the only developer of these changes. Working with faculty and divisions is going to be one of the primary ways of making some adjustments, and it's through the expertise of the faculty that we will succeed. And so I just started officially. You will see a lot more engagement of me. And like I said in my advice, for the joint advisory, it is to then make recommendations that go through the existing governance processes on both campuses. Until a major change happens, I am not going to stumble over existing governance on either campuses. And so that will be part of the narrative. And so I know right now it's just a lot of hearsay. In time, you will see the levels of engagement and the intent to engage faculty, especially on programmatic matters and other decision making.
Hello, my name is Aldane from Puba, and I've been hearing a lot of things that you're saying about students coming in, students going elsewhere, and I like to think outside the box regarding solving problems. And I've spoke to many different students, spoke to people out in the community, and sometimes I reflect on my own college experience, my journey. And one of the things that keep coming up with students, people out in the community, they wish UH West Oahu had a better fitness facility. And that's important. You know, I remember even my journey when I was in college and even looking at going to a different college for grad school. If it wasn't a fitness facility there, I would not go to that college. And I was really looking around because I value fitness. And like you mentioned, time is changing, students are changing. I do like marathons, ultra marathons, and a lot of students, they're getting into that type of things as well. They love fitness, like how I love fitness. So I was wondering in the future for UH West Oahu, can there be like a fitness facility, a better facility for our students? Because it's important.
I will say that in vacuum, I can't answer immediately. I also agree with you. And interestingly enough, when this announcement first happened, the Leeward folks were looking at your existing fitness space as an opportunity.
So tiny.
And so I think that all of these are opportunities, and they may be very valuable and credible investments to make. Like I shared about the gaming zone at Leeward, it may be that a fitness facility can bring more of that student community over. I don't know. It's too soon for me to make judgment calls on anything, but this type of idea is credible for addressing some of the needs that we have. You're absolutely right. Students want to have an experience like maybe we did when we went to college, and maybe I wouldn't have gone to my college if they didn't have a pool. Those are things that our students are looking into. Very real. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I've been told.
Hi, I'm Manu Hill. I'm a student success coach on Hawaii. A lot of your talk has been about LCC and UH West Oahu. I was just wondering how you're going to support, engage with, and help transfer with the other community colleges, because we're here, and especially as neighbor island people, our only opportunity is the online bachelor's degree. So we only have associate's degrees on Kauai. So how do you plan on supporting, or do you have the capacity within that to support other community colleges students?
Absolutely. And so one of the things with the community colleges is that we've all worked very closely together, and while not every degree is very aligned, we have very strong alignments and a shared backbone. During the pandemic, we started moving toward this hub and spoke model. You've probably heard of it, where maybe one college leads programmatically and shares with the other campuses. The goal here is wherever we align and wherever we see strengths from Leeward to UH West Oahu, that's shared with the other campuses. I am still part of the community college system, and I work very well with the chancellors, and the goal would be to integrate more. President Hensel doesn't see this being as just a benefit between Leeward West Oahu. It's a benefit for the whole. And so whether there's capacity or not, I will absolutely be a champion for it, because I need to see all of us succeed out of this. And Leeward is just one of all of the community colleges that could benefit from any changes that we make. Thank you. Okay, since I was told that I need to end, I need to honor time. My promise is more of these will happen, very likely in smaller groups too, so that we could have more honest conversations and more open dialogue. There will be updates that are provided. We will create a communication cadence so that folks are engaged in everything that's happening. I want to, like all of the administration shared, thank all of you for all that you've been doing, for making UH West Oahu such a strong powerhouse, celebrating our 50th anniversary, looking forward to everything that we could engage in 2026, and also for all of the work that's going on right now, given all of the changes with Banner, and all of the extra support that our students are needing for their registration and their advising, giving all of the obstacles. Thank you all for that. And I promise a very strong commitment to supporting our mission and everything that we do. Aloha.
Mahalo nui, Chancellor Peñalosa, for the sharing of your approach and the process of how we are about to move forward. We know that there are so many questions out there, a lot of wonderings and comments and concerns. Let it not end here. So as Chancellor has mentioned, ways to continue the conversation. What is the best way? Is it a phone number? Is it an email? Or is it a stop on the rail with him on the conversation as he arrives here on the rail? So what is the best way to approach you, Chancellor?
I have asked to be invited to any meetings or events that you all have.
Please invite me, email me, carlospe@hawaii.edu. Serena, I don't know where she's at. Back there. So whenever we need to have a formal meeting, she will help and make that happen. I'm an early bird. I get here, like I thought I was gonna get here by 7:30. I got here just before 7. And so please invite me. If there are questions, please invite me. Let's not let them fester.
Mahalo nui. Mahalo nui, Chancellor, for your show. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you for the opportunity to even ask questions during this time. So, folks, I'm not the one to keep you away from your lunch. So it's this opportunity now to head into your departmental gathering. So Vice Chancellor for Administration will be located in the spot. Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs in 208, Student Affairs in 225, Chancellor's Office A101. You can pick up your bentos downstairs in the Naulu Center in the front. I believe to redeem and get your bento, you need to give your name tag. So with that, folks, thank you. Have a beautiful day. Let's go and kick it off with Spring 2026. Aloha.